The City of Southport Board of Aldermen, September 9th, 2021 meeting is called to order. Welcome those who are here and those who are watching at home. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. Our invocation tonight will be by Fire Chief Charles Drew as we commemorate the week of the 20th anniversary of September 11th. This will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us bow our heads and pray. O gracious God, our hope, our strength, and our refuge, in our distress we come to you. Shock and horror of that tragic day has subsided, replaced now with an emptiness and a longing for an innocence lost. We come tonight remembering those who lost their lives in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. We're mindful of the sacrifice of public servants and first responders who demonstrated the greatest love of all by laying down their lives for friends. We commit their souls to your eternal care, and we celebrate their gifts to a fallen humanity. We come this evening remembering, and we come in hope, not in ourselves, but in your presence. In commemorating this tragedy, we give you thanks for your presence in our time of need, and we seek to worship you in spirit and in truth, our guide and our guardian. Bless this assembly and all those that are gathered here. Help us to never forget. In the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ the righteous, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chief Drew. Thank you for your service and for the service of all Southport firefighters and first responders. Item D, public comment. If you're here to comment on the streetlight policy, it's not on the agenda tonight. There will not be a vote on this. You can still comment, but you may want to wait until we have a board workshop on this issue. And those that are here to speak on item 7, you certainly can speak, but there's going to be a change in the agenda on that item also. So thank you for those who are willing to speak. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Rich Alt would like to speak about streetlights and September 11th.
All right. Streetlight, September 11th. Make sure the microphone's on. Welcome, Mr. Alt, and name, address, and we know your topic.
My name is Rich Alt. My address is 6165 Cottage Creek Road in Southport. So I will take the mayor's advice and hold off on the streetlight issue. And I just want to thank the fire chief and the Board of Aldermen and the mayor for having the proclamation about 9/11. For those of us who were there for the duration of that event, the first responders, thank you, but a part that gets left out is all the other people that showed up to help. They're called NGOs and non-governmental organizations, whether it's the Men's Baptist Church that shows up with an 18-wheeler that can feed 20,000 people a day, to all the other organizations that came there and helped out and made the whole process possible. So thank you for recognizing the 20th anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alt. Madam Clerk.
Individual would like to speak about Osprey Landing. Do we want to wait till?
Yeah, no, this will be fine.
Okay. Matthew Lawrence.
Well, actually, we could wait during the public. We're going to have a public hearing, sir, so you could speak during that time. It would probably be better.
My comments are a little bit broader than Osprey.
Okay,
Landing.
then please go ahead.
Thank you. Is it all right if I remove my mask while I speak?
No, you can either wear it off or on, however you prefer. We'll hear you better if you take it off, but if you feel like you need to wear it, that's fine.
No, I'd like to take it off.
Yes,
just so
please do.
you can see expressions better. My name is Matthew Lawrence. I moved to the Southport area 4 years ago, and we live in 1003 Bustle's Turn in Smithfield Woods. So I live right off of Robert Ruark, so the Osprey Landing is very relevant to me. I started riding my bicycle here in Southport 3 years ago, and I put an app on my phone, and I'm just 10 miles shy of 7,500 miles on the bicycle. So I know the Southport area and these streets fairly well. Because I'm coming out Robert Ruark, I've gone through Smithfield Woods, Forest Oaks, Cades Cove area many, many, many times. I'm probably on that Robert Ruark stretch of road maybe 10 trips a week. As you may be familiar, that if you're familiar with the road at all, it's 20 feet wide. It is, I believe, maintained by the NCDOT, Department of Transport. And it's a 20-foot wide road split in two, so you've got 10 feet on either side, and there's no passing on much of the road. The Osprey Landing is going to have close to 200 houses when it's done. There's 196 houses, I believe, the plan called for. And that's going to be around 16,000 trips, either going in or coming out a day. And that empties out right onto a road with 10-foot wide lanes. And there are bicycles on that road. I know one of their people said at one time that he had been there watching for a day and there weren't any bikes. Well, I'm on there and my wife are on there. And since COVID, many more people are riding their bikes throughout the town. And the CDOT has green-lighted the project, saying everything's fine. They were assuming that the improvement to the Robert Ruark Holmes Road intersection would be almost complete by now. Obviously, it hasn't even started. I don't know when they're going to start on that. I'm not holding my breath. When I ride my bike down that road, if I'm on the road and someone comes up behind me, they have to slow down, especially if there's a car coming in another direction. There's no way that road can hold a bicycle or a pedestrian and two cars each passing each other at the same place. It just doesn't work. So I can ride my bike for 1/10 of a mile with a car behind me going 10.5 miles an hour. Doesn't make them happy. Riding through Southport Way recently, a bunch of stop signs have gone in many intersections. The reason I'm pointing this out is because in Southport Way, the emergency entrance for the new Osprey Landing is going to be cut through Southport Way. I think it's Maple Leaf Drive. And a bunch of stop signs have come out, at least 3 different intersections there, to stop traffic now. That entrance, when it's completed, is going to be gated. And I assume that is an arm that swings up and down, that the police, emergency services can operate that gate so that the access through there supposedly is limited. I did question Thomas, the city planner, today, why those stop signs went in right now. Is there an alternate plan to not have an emergency exit there, but have that be a regular exit for Osprey Landing? I'm just curious about that. Another item that I'm curious about is because they're going to be making that exit, that emergency exit, it's going to be a paved road. It's going to be gated at Osprey Landing. Excuse me, it's going to be gated at Southport Way, but not gated in Osprey Landing itself. There's just going to be signage saying emergency exit only. So if that gate ever stops working, traffic is going to start. And I'm worried about that. I'm also worried for Southport Way because in the construction of that road and that entrance, that's going to require heavy equipment coming through their area, unless that's specifically prohibited. And all of the construction is going to go in through the new road that's coming in directly off of Robert Ruark. So I'm curious why the stop signs went in. Why are we stopping just ordinary traffic in Southport Way when it's just the local people? I don't know if Thomas came up with an answer for me. The other broader issue is the Indigo Project. When there was the introductory meeting for Indigo Project here, I got a small handout packet, 8.5 by 11, and they had big project signs out here so the audience could look at it. And they were intimating that traffic going into Southport was going to be going out Ninth Street into a traffic light area. And when I looked at the plans later, I noticed, there's the Parkland Gate or the Park Gate. And it turns out that's a main entrance onto Robert Ruark. That's 1,200 homes going in. NCDOT seems to think right now that a 2-lane road is sufficient. But I don't think it is. Since NCDOT is responsible for Robert Ruark, I suggest that they look at this next coming project with much more detail and much more safety-mindedness before they give a green light to Indigo Plantation. I think that's enough for now. I'm very concerned about the amount of traffic, especially through Southport Way. So I'm hoping that gated emergency exit stays gated and there's no way cars can get around it or through it. And that someone maintains that gate so that it stays down all the time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Madam Clerk? Okay, no one else. Anyone else that's here that didn't sign up that would like to speak? Okay, all right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the, item E is the approval of the agenda. And I would recommend that we amend the agenda in terms of item 7 concerning the Episcopal Church land swap. This is something that needs to go to the planning board first for them to research and give a recommendation to us. So if the board agrees with that, we will send that to the planning board. And also I would like to add the proclamation for recognizing Constitution Week. So with the agenda as amended, I'll entertain a motion. Alderman Lombardi, is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, any opposed? Okay, great, motion carried, thank you. The ethics statement. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Any conflicts among the board? Okay, very good, thank you. F, approval of the consent agenda. This is the minutes, the regular Board of Aldermen meeting August 12th, and the minutes from the special Board of Aldermen meeting on August 31st, which was our traffic safety, roads, pedestrian workshop. So I'll entertain a motion. Mayor, okay, Alderman Allen, and second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Item G, special recognition. First of all, I would like to recognize Representative Charlie Miller. Would you please stand? We thank you for being here. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your work in helping Southport move forward. We appreciate that so much. And we'll also we recognize also Chad Kimes, who's here from DOT. Thank you for being here. And also Caitlin is with him also, so thank you both. Thank you for being here. We look forward to your presentation. So our first special recognition will be by Alderman Sharkey. It'll be Adopt a Highway and Coastal Cleanup Programs.
Good evening, everyone. In recognition that September is a clean sweep litter program month for DOT, and they encourage the Adopt a Highway teams to get out and do their litter cleanups. And it's also the month in which we recognize International Coastal Cleanup Day. I have written a resolution on behalf of all the aldermen to acknowledge local anti-litter efforts through NCDOT Adopt a Highway and the International Coastal Cleanup Day. So if the following people that are here representing Adopt a Highway programs here in Southport could come up front so we can get you on the camera, I'd appreciate it. Members of the Cape Fear Yacht Club, Brenda Blaise, the Ghost Tours of Southport, Riley Ransom, Andy Feldman and the River Mist POA, Lisa Smith, and with the coastal cleanup effort is Trinity United Methodist Church Creation Care Team. So, thank you all for coming this evening. I'm very happy that you've agreed to come and be recognized, and what you do is so great for the city. Let me read the resolution. Whereas Southport residents are known for their volunteering spirit, this volunteer spirit is vital to local and statewide litter reduction efforts. In September of each year, NCDOT encourages volunteer groups to participate in roadside litter cleanups. And whereas in 1988, NCDOT began the Adopt a Highway program, caring individuals and groups have made a more significant commitment to cleaning up litter from some of the state-owned roads in Southport by becoming Adopt a Highway sponsors. Being a sponsor requires a 4-year commitment and multiple cleanups a year. Several local roads have signs signifying their adoption. East Leonard Street, Ferry Road, East Moore Street, Southport Supply Road, and Dosher Cutoff. And whereas another important litter cleanup program in September is the International Coastal Cleanup Day, which is recognized on September 18th, 2021. International Cleanup Day originated in Texas and is now recognized across the United States and 200 other countries. Whereas local volunteers have participated in past coastal cleanups that have significantly reduced the Cape Fear River and Atlantic Ocean pollution. Working together, volunteers make a visible impact. For example, in 2019, volunteers removed an estimated 4,000 pounds of hurricane-related storm debris from Southport's waterfront. And whereas both the Adopt a Highway program and International Coastal Cleanup Day reduce litter in our environment, neither program would happen without the volunteers that act to make Southport a cleaner place, providing all of us a gift. Be it acknowledged that the Southport Board of Aldermen recognized the following sponsors and groups for being anti-litter heroes because they are Adopt a Highway sponsors or sponsors of the September 18th International Coastal Cleanup Day in Southport. The following individuals: Riley Ransom and Brenda Blaise, Linda Smith, in loving memory of Timmy Smith, and the groups Ghost Tours of Southport, River Mist POA, and the Cape Fear Yacht Club. Thank you very much.
The first proclamation is the proclamation recognizing the 20th anniversary of 9/11 as a National Day of Service and Remembrance. On September 11th, 2001, the security of our nation was shattered by cowardly terrorist attacks that killed nearly 3,000 innocent people at the World Trade Center towers in New York City, the United States Pentagon, and in the pristine fields of Shanksville, Pennsylvania. The terrorist goal was to strike a powerful blow to the hearts of all Americans and tear at the fabric of our nation. Out of tragedy came a remarkable spirit of unity, compassion, and determination that will never be forgotten, just as we will never forget those who were lost and injured and the people who rose in service during the rescue and recovery effort and in defense of our nation at home and abroad. In observance of the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001, which killed citizens from 92 countries, we hereby adopt the following proclamation in tribute to those lost and injured and the many who gave of themselves in service to their communities and America in the aftermath of the attacks. Whereas people of all ages and walks of life across America and around the world collectively witnessed an event of immense tragedy on September 11th, 2001, and whereas the events of that day instantly transformed everyone's lives, some through personal loss and many others through an unfamiliar sense of individual and national vulnerability. Whereas Americans arose from the shock, unifying the country and national spirit, pride, selflessness, generosity, courage, and service. And whereas many brave people tirelessly and courageously participated in an extremely difficult and dangerous rescue and recovery effort. And whereas September 11th will never be just another day in the hearts and minds of all Americans. And whereas September 11th, 2021 will be the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on America. Whereas many citizens may wish to memorialize September 11th by engaging in or planning to engage in personal and individual acts of community service as part of a solemn day of remembrance and tribute. And whereas March 19th, 2009, the United States Congress passed legislation authorizing the establishment of September 11th as a federally recognized National Day of Service and Remembrance, which was signed into law by President Barack Obama on April 21st, 2009. Whereas President Obama on September 11, 2009 issued the Patriot Day Proclamation, officially designating September 11th as a National Day of Service and Remembrance, and calling upon all interested Americans to participate. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Southport asks all citizens to observe September 11th and mark the 20th anniversary of 9/11 as a voluntary day of service and remembrance by all citizens and organizations adopted this day, the 9th of September, 2021. Joseph E. Hayden, MD, Mayor, City of Southport. All of us remember where we were on that day. So this proclamation is important to all citizens everywhere. Our next proclamation is the City of Southport Proclamation for POW MIA National Recognition Day. Whereas the history of our nation was built upon the sacrifices, victories, and defeats of the many men and women who endured battles and hardship while protecting our nation's freedom and security. Whereas tens of thousands of our nation's armed forces have endured unimaginable suffering and deprivation as prisoners of war. And whereas over 81,000 soldiers are still missing from World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, Cold War, and Gulf Wars. And whereas while we celebrate each homecoming and pray for the safety of our troops currently serving overseas, we must also remember and honor all of the men and women who remain unaccounted for throughout our nation's history. Whereas in 1998, the United States Congress designated the third Friday in September as POW MIA National Recognition Day. Now, therefore, I, Joseph E. Hayden, Mayor of the City of Southport, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen and grateful American citizens everywhere, recognize September 17th, 2021 as POW MIA National Recognition Day and vow that these brave men and women will never be forgotten. Proclaim this 9th day of September 2021. If you served in the military, please stand. We salute your service. And those of us old enough to remember, remember the day that the Vietnam POWs came home and were met at the airport, and the joy in their family and what these men went through during that time. It will never be forgotten, including someone we all know and remember, John McCain, who was in a POW camp for over 5 years. So we salute them, and we thank all those who fly the flag of the POW MIA. Our next proclamation is a delight to recognize the Southport Lions Club. Is anyone from the Lions Club here? Please come up and join me. Thank you. Thank you. Whereas the original Southport Lions Club was established during World War II in 1945 with only 16 members, and whereas the organization has now grown to an average membership of over 50 women and men who embody their motto, "We serve," by engaging in community service projects and fundraisers. And whereas the Southport Lions Club focuses primarily on assisting the visually and hearing impaired, but is also involved in helping to provide health care to lower income adults, and whereas the organization celebrated its 75th anniversary in 2020, but could not invite the community to celebrate because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas as a way to celebrate a milestone anniversary, the Southport Lions Club is hosting a family day and car show. And whereas on September 25th, 2021, the Family Day car show will be held to show thanks to the Southport community. The club is offering refreshments at $19.45 prices. There will also be, we can't beat that, there will also be live music and activities for kids and adults. Now, therefore, the City of Southport Board of Aldermen wishes to express gratitude to the Southport Lions Club for their 75 years of service to the community, and hopes the citizens and visitors of Southport would join the board in celebrating the club's 75th anniversary. Proclaimed this 9th day of September, 2021. Congratulations. It's wonderful. Our last proclamation is from the Daughters of the American Revolution, and they've asked this to be read at our meeting. City of Southport proclaiming the Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2021 marks the 234th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and privilege to commemorate the occasion with patriotic celebrations. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and a privilege to commemorate the occasion with patriotic celebrations, whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week. And whereas the Constitution is the world's longest surviving written charter of government, marking the United States of America as the world's most enduring beacon of liberty and freedom. Now, therefore, I, Joseph P. Hayden, Mayor of the City of Southport, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through September 23rd, 2021 as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals that the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Proclaimed with pride this 9th day of September, 2021. Item H, the agenda. First item on the agenda is the Cassie presentation by NCDOT. This is an automated trolley system, and we'll look forward to hearing about it. They have this at Kitty Hawk, and they may want to do this here in Southport, so we look forward to the presentation.
So not tonight they do, but we will forward this presentation to the town where they can put it on their website or share it with folks. One of the other handouts that I gave out, you may want to keep these handy because we're probably running out of time on hard copy maps, but this is the latest map that just came out this year, so if you still use the old maps instead of Google Maps, there you go. All right, so we're going to walk through this thing, and I will try to keep you updated what page I'm on. I'm going to page 4 of this, and just to give you an overview, so 90% of our projects are funded in our STIP, and our STIP, you're going to hear me say STIP probably a lot. STIP is our 10-year program. It is our State Transportation Improvement Program, and that's how highway projects get funded, the majority of them. 211, which we're going to talk about here in a few minutes, that is how that project got funded. It includes bike path facilities, ferry system additions, aviation, and public transit. Just to give you an update on the STIP, every 2 years we go through a prioritization process. We identify projects working with our planning organizations and through municipalities. And every 2 years we go through a prioritization process where we submit those projects in there and see how they score in that program. And just in case you hear, on page 6, I just gave you an update. Like everything else, you know, prices are going up on everything that you do. So DOT just went back and we did estimates on every single project in our 10-year program, which is about 450 projects across the state. And these little graphs that you see at the bottom shows how we're over-programmed in that 10-year program. And it's basically our needs have exceeded our revenues, but just wanted you to have that on your minds as we move forward in the future. Our program is safe for the next 2 or 3 years, but just know there will be a lot of conversations on trying to keep up with our transportation needs. This is just for your information. On page 7, you may have heard that DOT, our cash was very limited the last couple of years. That's because since Hurricane Matthew, we've had Florence, we've had Dorian, we've had Isaias, which hit this area hard. We've had rain events, multiple rain events that exceeded the 500-year events. We're still faced with COVID and those issues, but that was a couple years ago. Today, the DOT's budget is strong. In our checking account today, we've got about $2 billion sitting there, and that tells you we're getting back to normal in business, as in maintenance, resurface, and bridge replacements, and getting these programs off and going. All right, moving on to some projects in the area. On sheet 9, I know that is small, so we printed off a larger sheet here, and I'm not going to go through this list here. I'm just going to hit on the highlights off of this, but this is just for your reading on the projects this is all of Brunswick County, that are programmed to be let in the next 10 years. And like I said, that is just for your knowledge there. And now I'm going to continue on and hit on the highlights. So on page 10, this starts the big one here that we've already heard a conversation about, what we call R5021. This is the 211 project from 87 to Midway Road, from widening from a 2-lane to a 4-lane facility. I'm happy here tonight to say this thing is getting ready to be let. When I mean let, it's getting ready to be advertised to the contractors here in the next couple of weeks. We will open bids in November, and hopefully this thing will be under construction by January. So we will celebrate when we break that ground out there. So here on this page on sheet 10, you will see just a diagram of what, this is the intersection there at Midway Road, what we now call 906. That will be a new grade separated interchange, and that kind of gives you a schematic of what that will look like. I know this is small, but this will just kind of give you an overview. The importance of this was to bridge 906 over 211, so in case we have storms or we have evacuations, we have a free-flowing off of Oak Island across 211. We'll have 2 routes we can get them, either 211 or 906 back to 17. On sheet 11, inside the Southport limits there, this is the Long Beach design. We were here a couple of years ago. We probably had a dozen different alternates on how to make this the best fit for what was being planned. As you can see here, the new Lowe's that's out there today is not on this, because this dates back to before that was built. But we made this design and worked with Southport, worked with the development, and this was the best fit for that area. Once again, Long Beach Road is going to go over 211, very similar to what you just saw on 906. This will allow free-flowing movement from the island to get across 211. And just for your information, if you want to know how to get from Southport to Oak Island now, you'll have 2 choices. You can go up 211, you can make the left there at Old Long Beach Road and then make a left again, or you can take that right and go up to your new signal and make that left. So there'll be 2 opportunities to get to Oak Island from this direction. On sheet 12, this kind of shows you what the roadway will look like coming out of Southport from 87 back right past the what I want to call the Walmart, 4-lane divided. We entered into an agreement with the town of Southport for sidewalks out there. So you see the sidewalks on both sides of the road and the grass median there. Just to end with, I will tell you this project here is about 8.5 miles long. This will be a very challenging project. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to you about that. Any urban widening project is very challenging with the amount of traffic, with the tourist seasons that we have during the summer, and the amount of utilities out there. You know, the phasing of it will be, it will start at 906 and work this direction, but we will continue to work with this community on updates. Y'all just ask us how many times you want us to give you updates. We'll be happy to have our construction folks come in here and give regular scheduled updates. You are looking, I don't know if I said this, but you're looking about a 4-year process. The job is roughly going to be between $125 and $150 million. So it is a very large project, one of the largest projects we've had in this region. All right, moving on the package here. I have a lot of project information here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. It's outside of these limits, but it does affect Brunswick County, and it does indirectly affect Southport. But just for your information, on 14, you will see a lot of improvements along US 17 throughout Brunswick County down the South Carolina line. This is one of them here in Charlotte, US 17 at Smith Avenue. This project is scheduled about 10 years out, but that's a interchange. On page 15, you will hear this word a lot. You've heard us, and you've seen super streets in the area, but a lot of the intersections on 17 will become a super street, or you'll also hear reduced conflict intersections. I've identified some of the sites that's already been identified and what's getting ready to be let. We have several of these coming up in the next year. Sheet 16, US 17 at Hickman Road. A lot of us use that to get to South Carolina. That will also go to that super street, reduced conflict intersection, and that's letting here in December of 21 in just a few months. On sheet 17, same thing at 17 in Thomasboro. In June of 25, at 1717 Business in Charlotte, same setup. And then on sheet 19 at 904 and 17, same thing with the reduced conflict intersection. On sheet 20, this is big news because we really haven't announced this yet. Everybody knows when it rains 2 to 3 inches, you cannot drive down 133. I'm here to tell you tonight we have fully funded 2 new bridges on both sides of Funston Road. And in 2023, we will build those 2 bridges, and that will alleviate the flooding on that road for the majority of the rain events that we have. So keep in mind, a lot of construction going on. We're going to be on 211 working, and we're going to be on 133 working. All in progress, but this is critical here. We figured out a way to get this funded, and like I said, it's coming.
Chad, can I ask a question? Will that result in the closure of River Road during the construction of those bridges? Full
Yes.
closure?
Yes, sir.
For, do we know how long?
Not yet. We're early in design, and it's very hard to get the environmental permits to build off the existing. You pretty much have to build in the existing. All right, on sheet 21, I just want to give you an update on the ferry. The ferry is not part of the division, but it is our sister agency, and I just want to brag on them a little bit. Hurricane Isaias damaged one of their docks out there, and they just recently completed that this past month. And those are just some before and after pictures there, and that will help them to be able to do their functions down there. Going to page 23, a little ways away, but this is critical to all of Southeast North Carolina. You will hear a lot of talk about Carolina-based Parkway. Some people may refer to this as the extension of 31 or the Little River Bypass. We are doing the study down there on determining the best route for that bypass, and it's anticipated that we know that alternative route should be chosen by August of 22. This is an unfunded project at this point, but we are making every effort to make this a funded project. It's still a ways out, but this is a critical project for southeastern North Carolina and connection between North Carolina and South Carolina. All right, moving on to page 26. And this is getting back to Cassie. So I don't know what Cassie stands for. Caitlin, do you know? So I'm sure, we've got a million acronyms for everything, but so we have a multimodal unit that deals, whether it's bike ped, rail, transit, aviation. So this was a pilot program for an autonomous busing system, which means no driver. It's fully electric, and they were looking for sites around the state. As the mayor mentioned, this has been tested at NC State. It has been tested at the Wright Brothers Memorial, has been very successful. Just a little bit more about it. We put some bullet points here. It can transport up to 5 people. During the COVID times, we recommend 5 people in the same household or 3 people that's not from the same household. It is wheelchair accessible. It can operate 16 hours of operation per charge, and it operates at a speed between 8 and 12 miles an hour.
Mr. Heim, a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I know this is something for the future, but would the route be changeable? Would we be able to adjust that perhaps so that it ran from a satellite parking area to downtown?
So yes, and I was going to cover this on page 27, but the bottom line is, so the town will make this decision. You know, DOT's not endorsing this. We're just saying this is an opportunity. The team that runs Cassie, they were actually down here, I believe yesterday, the day before yesterday. They identified the route that you see here on page 27, which is Moore Street to Davis Street to Bay Street to Yacht Basin Drive. You know, they identified a couple areas of concern with some low-hanging vegetation, power lines. You know, the other important thing is how do you store it, because it's got to be stored in a climate-controlled facility, which they think they've identified a site, and there may be a potential for losing from some parking. The other thing is DOT pays for 80% of this, and we would have to identify a 20% match, which is around $32,200. But yes, this is based on what the town wants to do, where the site it wants to be ran. Cassie is it's very restrictive on where you can run Cassie. If you put in left turns, you're throwing kinks into it. You got to remember there's not a driver, so they want this thing to stay on right turns only. You want to keep it going in right turns. You want to limit the amount of signals. This route here would keep one signal in there, which is fine. You also want to keep it at minimal speeds. So these are the streets that were identified where those speeds were kept at a minimum. So, but yes, the town can come up with other routes, and we will relay that to this team, and we will eventually have a meeting with the town to discuss more in details if the town still wants to pursue this. I'm just here talking about the basics, but we would actually need the team, the multimodal team, to talk with the town one-on-one to get into more details.
Excuse me, in all this construction that is happening, is there going to ever be is the state or county planning on putting any electric recharge stations in?
So at this time for DOT, I can't answer that. I cannot answer that, and I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
This is really for a town to get a feel, you know, if they want to look at this option down the road. You know, this will kind of give you a feel if it's successful or not in this area. Possible time frame that the unit was looking at was around November through January. It's a 3.5-month trial, and those months are flexible there. All right, just a note on 29. I know I'm shifting gears a little bit. I know there's been a lot of discussion on crosswalks here in Southport, and there were 2 areas identified with the town in the past for a crosswalk, one at Moore Street and Davis Street. And you know, this is probably some of our best engineering plans you'll see right here when we take a red pen. But so when we identified this a couple years, because of the parking there, we felt more comfortable if we did concrete bump outs So when you're walking across the street, it gives a pedestrian room to actually walk out, and they have some protection from a through movement. We can do that in paint. You know, we're still good with just the paint. The paint is much cheaper, and we have the funds to do that today. The concrete bump outs, we just didn't have the funds to do the concrete. And just at this one intersection, it was around $123,000 for the concrete work, while for just the paint itself was $15,000. I just asked the town to let us know which they prefer. You want us to go seek funding, work together to look for funding for the concrete work, or would you just prefer to do it with the paint? I'm fine either way. It's just a little bit more safe for the curb work. And because of our funding issues in the past, this is why this was put on hold. But like I said, we're good to paint it today if that's what the town wishes to do. On sheet 30, this is the crossing at 211 and West Street. Same thing. We would prefer some of the bump outs. Keep in mind, this is going to eliminate some parking spaces. The town already approved this through a resolution that we kind of put in one of the corners of the presentation. But I just need the town to give us a direction. I'm good either way. So for the concrete work on, the first one was around $124,000. Concrete work on the West Street and Howe Street was around $83,000. But like I said, we still haven't identified funds for that, but we're good with the paint if we want to go with the paint and the thermite. And my last thing before I open up to any type of questions you have is the big one here, is the main reason I'm here tonight, is to contact us on the page 32. We have a terrific relationship with this community. We just want to continue making it stronger and stronger. There's going to be challenges with this 211 project. We want to keep the communications up, and anything y'all need, these are our contacts. You'll see me here at the top. I'm responsible for everything in DOT in this region. Y'all are welcome to call me at any point of anything. I've put other contacts. Caitlin, which is back here, she's responsible for our funding in our division. She's probably more important than I am. So her contacts are there. The Anthony Law will be over the construction project. Any maintenance questions, there's ours. For driveways and encroachments, Ben Hughes, and then traffic-related issues, Jesse. But once again, my contact is there, and if you want to write down my cell phone number, just let me know. But yeah, anybody can have my cell phone number, and I'll go ahead and give that out. It's 910-470-4494. And all of us are local here. We're not from Raleigh. We live here. We want to do it right. We're going to make it right. And we want to make everybody proud of what we do. With that being said, any other questions? I know I just went through a lot of stuff.
I have a question. Mr. Kimes? Laura?
Yes, I'm sorry. The
That's okay, you got to look around. I'm noticing the markings for the crosswalks, and I do understand that we would have to give up some parking spaces, but is there any negotiation in that, or is what you have marked all the area that has to be restricted as far as parking?
So before any decisions would be made, we would want an on-site meeting just to walk through it all with the town staff. We're not going to do anything until everybody's in an agreement with what we need to do. The parking spaces, the reason why you see elimination of parking spaces is sight distance. You want to make sure when that person walks out, they can see that required distance so they're not hit. The last thing we want to do is put in a crosswalk and all of a sudden someone is hit where we're not having problems today. And there are problems today because people's walking everywhere. So we want to make it safer. But with that, we want to make sure we explain why we need that amount of sight distance. And we understand parking is a premium. Completely understand that.
On the Cassie project, $32,000 would it be sort of our side of the matching for each unit, each transit hub or whatever you call that?
So that 32,000 is a one-time amount
Okay,
for that 3.5 months.
all right. And 5 people in it, how many can run at this? What is the model? Is it 5 running at one time?
So there's just one running. It'll run from 8 to 5 during that 8 to 5 schedule. So it's pretty much a continuous operation.
Right.
And if the Wright Brothers Memorial handle it pretty well with that amount of traffic that goes to that destination.
Well, I've seen it all. For Southport, that is.
I seen I was at part of a demonstration when they first brought it in at Raleigh, and it took us all by surprise. I mean, it's a little odd getting in something that doesn't have a driver.
And our handicapped individuals
Yes.
easily
Yes,
accessible.
and you'll want to make sure where it picks up people, you know, you've got the handicap accessible as well too, but it is handicap accessible.
And the Carolina Bay project, 2 years, we decide what that route will be.
Which route? Yes, and keep in mind that it's unfunded for construction. South Carolina is fully funded, and they're going to start building theirs around 2026. And so we've got to be able to catch up with South Carolina.
That'll be tremendous.
I mean, everyone knows here that, you know, Brunswick County, especially one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. We know it's the fastest growing county in the state. Really, all of southeast North Carolina is blowing up, but that one's is going to be a huge project, especially since I-140 was completed and we're bringing in additional traffic off of 40 and 95. Not right now. Yeah, so that's where these bridges are going. Oh, right there? Yes, they're right there on both sides of Funston. Yeah, yeah, we'll be excited because, you know, every time it rains, our crews have to go out and put up the detour.
So you're talking about the 211 project and the 133 project happening concurrently, is that correct?
The bridges, yes, and 211.
So is that safe for the citizens of Southport to have both our main evacuation routes down potentially at the same time?
Yes, we will coordinate it where we can still have evacuations. So it's not going to be like what you're thinking about, just all roads blocked. When 211 is being constructed, you will still have the same amount of capacity out there today as you will when it's being under constructed. So the only possible detour will be for those bridges being built.
And have you bought easements for? You know, coming into town, we have famous subs. We have the pharmacies there, and then there's an abandoned building there. Is the DOT taking over that building? It's right in front of the ferry schedule.
We've acquired all of our right-of-way, so
You're not
I don't
sure
know
what-
about every single parcel, but
Okay.
we've acquired 100% of our right-of-way that we've needed
Gotcha.
for the project. So if there's anything we bought, we would have already taken it down by now. I'm not familiar with any vacant buildings that we've purchased.
And at the intersection of 211 and 133 and 87, where they all come together at Famous, is that still regular intersection or?
Yes,
no
yeah, so the 4
roundabout
lane
road?
will all come down. Once you get on this side of that intersection, it'll be back down to a 2 lane facility. And that goes back with a lot of work with Southport. Eventually, they had 4 lanes coming toward Southport on this side that Famous Subs is on.
Yep.
And we took that out. We killed all the lanes there at the intersection.
The trees.
Yeah, so we didn't want to impact anything
Yes, sir.
on this side. And that was actually a project that was being designed by Raleigh, and we took it over in the division to make that thing right.
So sidewalks will start at that location.
Yes.
Thank you.
There any way possible to have, and we had talked about this earlier, a access to the new development, Osprey Landing, from, North Howe Street to 11?
So yes, we need to sit down and look at all that. I myself have not started looking at the development. I'm sure our district engineer has got into it, but we eventually need to sit down with the town and go over all that and look at everybody's concerns. And we'll get, Caitlin will get that set up.
Okay, because that would really help unload some of the traffic on Robert Ruark.
Chad, am I remembering right that you're also doing some improvements on Ruark? I'm not remembering that.
There are some improvements with the turn lanes, the turn lane storage and all that. And I don't have the plans with me, but those are widening out, as well as 87. Now when the 2 left turns are coming together, we've made some improvements, but all that's going to be much better after this project is constructed. And the drainage in there is going to be much better now, as we know how much flooding that occurs in there, but there's some major drainage improvements coming in through there.
Questions?
I apologize. I got so many questions and so excited, but let. Explain to me let again, just so I
Yeah,
can get
sorry about that. That's another DOT term. So a let is when we open bids. So when we say it's got a November, what do we say, November 16th, let date, the bids come in, it's been advertised, and we'll open the bids, and we'll share those bids with the town, but we analyze them to see if everything looks good and how they compare to our estimate, and then we'll look at awarding it shortly thereafter, and hopefully by January we're working. And once again, I can't stress how much excitement there is from DOT we're letting this project. I think we've had a total of 2 years delay, which actually it was actually a blessing because of the amount of utilities we were able to relocate. We've actually been working out there. Y'all have seen that. We've been moving utilities to make it easier on the contractor. So it's been a good 2 years.
One more question from me. I want to be sure I heard correctly. The mayor asked you if there was an opportunity here to have the Osprey Landing have a second access and egress from what we call Howe Street, but now 211. The city has that right of way all the way up to, off of 211, up to where the Osprey Landing project is. The Osprey Landing developer has opted not to use that and instead to use a very small neighborhood street in Southport Way as the emergency access and egress. Did I hear correctly that you are willing to talk with the city and with Osprey Landing about possibly doing something to expedite that and to make it possible with some state funding perhaps?
Yeah, so I've agreed to have a meeting to discuss that possibility
Meeting with whom?
with the town and DOT, just to see, look at the development. I myself have not looked at that development yet, but I have staff that reviews the engineering analysis, the TIAs and stuff. So I need to sit down with the town and my staff to look at that possibility.
Oh, thank you. You heard, I'm sure, a member of the public talking about just what a terrible impact the Osprey Landing is going to have on
Right.
Robert Rourke Road, notwithstanding the plans for the turn lanes and so forth. It's still going to be hard on Robert Rourke Road and on the intersection with 211. So an additional opportunity to offload some of that traffic would be great.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Kimes. It's always
Thank you.
good to hear your voice. It's finally good to see you in person. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you and DOT.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3 on our agenda is the loan with Truist. And this is, the Board of Aldermen has already voted to purchase these 2 vehicles for the fire department. So this item is for a loan. It's a low interest to fund the purchase. And I will turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Hargrove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Finance Director Melanie Trexler, Fire Chief Charles Drew, and I have been carefully analyzing the Truist loan terms to determine the best fit for the fire department. The current Truist rate offer is 1.42%. Staff recommends financing the entire loan amount of $824,210,000. I would like to ask the board to consider a motion authorizing the financing of the $824,210 for the 2 new fire trucks.
Motion would be to adopt this resolution to finance as the amount that the city manager stated, $824,210, at an interest rate of 1.42%. So this would be a loan for the entire purchase of those 2 vehicles. So I'll entertain any comments, any questions for Mr. Hargrove. Entertain a motion, either way.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the resolution approving financing terms with Truist Bank in the amount of $824,210 at a 1.42% interest rate for a 5-year loan term, as stated in their packet.
Okay. Motion by Alderman Allen, second by Alderman Spencer. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 4 on our agenda is the development agreement with Osprey Landing. As you know, just with a brief review here of Osprey, this is an ordinance approving the zoning map amendment for rezoning this parcel from R20 to PUD, Planned Unit Development. That occurred on December 13th, 2018. So that's how this was started, and we now know that our UDO has changed so that you cannot do a zoning change without seeing the site plan. So the UDO, as I said, has been changed. The site plan has been seen. So now we move forward. There's no reason to go back in time on Osprey Landing, so let's move forward. So today is about a public hearing concerning a development agreement that allows for the city and Osprey Landing to move forward in a beneficial way. This is with respect to the build-out time for the project, annexation, and water and sewer. So I declare the public hearing open, and I call on Development Services Director, Mr. Thomas Lloyd, and then City Attorney, Mr. Eisenberg. And the board will ask questions if they have any, and then we will hear from the public.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. So as the mayor said, this is consideration of a development agreement for Osprey Landing between Vanguard Farms, which is the holding company for Bill Clark Homes, and the city. And, you know, development agreements are common for these types of multi-phased projects. Due to their scale and durations, these often require coordination of public capital facilities planning, financing and construction schedules, and phasing of the development. And since these have such substantial commitments of capital and public resources, these agreements can be requested to ensure that the development standards will remain stable throughout the development. Due to these agreements, it can be a beneficial tool for both the public and private developers. So the general statutes that govern how these development agreements work are 160D 1001 through 1012, and some of the procedures and requirements for these require a duly noticed public hearing with both adjacent mailed public notice to all the adjacent property owners, as well as posted notice to all the property owners, or at the property at the entrance. So both of those have been done. The mailed notice has to be at least 10 days, but not more than 25 days prior to the hearing. That was executed. Just to summarize some of the terms of this agreement, you know, it goes into the laws governing the development of this project, the expiration date of the agreement, as well as the development uses that Osprey Landing is entitled to, and also the public facilities that will be used. Of note, this agreement does require the developer to voluntarily annex into the city after each phase of the final plat. After that final plat is recorded and approved by the Board of Aldermen, they will have to turn in a voluntary annexation application for that phase within 30 days of the recordation at the Register of Deeds taking place. It also sets deadlines for each of these phases to be recorded. So it's either 30 days after it's recorded at the Brunswick County Register of Deeds office, or the deadline date, whichever comes first. So, for example, the deadline for phase 1 is by June 30th, 2022. So it would be whichever is sooner. That's really all I have. I don't know if the city attorney has anything else to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I'll add a few things. The purpose of the public hearing, of course, is just to consider this development agreement. It has nothing to do with density, has nothing to do with access roads, has nothing to do with lot layouts. All of that has already been approved. This basically is a very simple development agreement, and there are three main things that are addressed in the development agreement that we wanted to clarify with the developer. The first thing is that normally a developer would have 7 years to build out a multi-phase development. In this case, it provides for up to 12 years to build out, so that it can be a slower build out, which would have a little less effect at one time on the city. Now, they can build it sooner than that, but they wanted to ask for up to 12 years as the maximum amount to build out. The second thing it does is it allows them to get their water and sewer from the county. And the third thing that it does is they have agreed and contracted in this agreement to petition for annexation, so that all of this property, when it's developed, will go into the tax base of the city.
Any questions for Mr. Lloyd or City Attorney? And we'll also open it up for public comment from the public. Anyone that would like to speak, or Alderman Allen, please.
Yeah, Mike, what happens if if anything, if the developer fails to file a annexation petition within the 1 month deadline of filing the plat?
They would be in breach of the contract, and, you know, we would have the right to enforce the contract.
But only to enforce the so we could just force the annexation issue?
Yes.
Basically,
yeah.
but we
Yes.
wouldn't have any, we couldn't cancel the remainder of the development?
Well,
or,
by that time, I'm assuming they'd already be hooked up to water and sewer, so that would probably be a moot issue. The other issue would be the timetable. So no, I believe that our remedy there would be to ask for an injunction to require them to petition for annexation.
Thank you.
Mike, can I follow up on that to be sure? The means of enforcement available to us if they fail to honor their side of the contract, what are those means?
Sue them.
Okay.
I mean, not to be short, but I mean, this is an agreement. This is a contract between the parties.
Right.
And if either party breached the contract, the other party would have the right to file suit under the agreement.
Is it to their benefit and anything you can think of to not abide by the contract?
No, I think they've got it timed. The developer, if you think about it, they've got it timed to where up until the time they record the plat, it's not in the city of Southport, okay? So basically, they're not being taxed by the city of Southport. Well, when they record that final plat, that's when they're going to start selling the lots. Okay, so then the annexation will become effective, and so those lots then will be taxable by the lot owners. So it's really not, to answer your question, it really doesn't cost the developer any money except for lots that may not be sold for a while after the plat is recorded, but it puts it in our tax base.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I got one other question. You said earlier 12-year, isn't it actually 15? 21 to 36.
Added a couple of possible other phases. Yeah. The agreement provides that they intend to do this in 5 phases, and they've got kind of a sketch map in there showing the 5 phases. However, they want to reserve the right, if the economy or whatever dictates it, that they maybe could divide a phase, for instance, into 2 phases and go up to a maximum of 8 phases, which would slow down the build-out.
Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? If you would, please come up to the podium, state your name, address. Concerning Osprey Landing. Yes, please. Sure.
By this project. So my 2 questions: where is Osprey Landing connecting to the sewer line? Because Robert Ruark doesn't have a sewer line, correct? So do they connect out onto Howe Street, or are there plans to run a sewer line down Robert Ruark?
They would be connecting Gordon and Howe Street, isn't that right? Yeah, down the Daniels easement to there, and they would be connecting to the county line if this agreement is adopted.
Okay. And then I guess I just want to know notification to homeowners, particularly myself and my husband, the turning lane when that starts, because that impacts our access to the street and to our home. So is there any plan for when that would start, when the turning lane would start and that construction? Is that going to happen before the building, after the building, during the building?
This agreement has nothing to do with that. That's it basically just addresses those 3 things that I mentioned there. The others have been addressed. Thomas, you maybe can answer that better about the turning lane if you know.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to work with NCDOT on coordinating all of that.
just two questions I had about the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I declare that the public hearing is closed, and I will entertain a motion concerning the resolution. The motion to adopt this resolution and approve it, and for the mayor to sign it.
I would
I'd
like,
to make,
I would like just to mention that this agreement, just so that you'll know the background, it was negotiated between Mr. Stiers, whom y'all know, who's represented us before, and the attorney for Vanguard, with Thomas and I adding input and making some changes to it.
I'll willing to offer a motion. This agreement is giving us more oversight than any other large development that we've had up until this point. Thomas will be able to provide checks on the developer, and if we have to take action regarding the annexation issue, then we do have that means. So I think it's a beneficial document. I make the motion that we accept this development agreement as written between Vanguard Farms Incorporated and the city, and authorize the mayor to sign it.
Motion by Alderman Sharkey and second by Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller. Any further discussion?
Yes, from me. I've made it pretty clear in the past that I think that the Osprey Landing project is not good for Southport or for the adjacent neighborhoods. Among other things, it's not good for traffic management. But that train left the station several years ago when zoning was changed to allow the project, and so the site plans pretty much were virtually out of our control from then on. This became a learned lesson for us, and when we updated our UDO, we changed that so that that can't happen again. Now, the thing that has concerned me a lot is that when the developers appeared before us, they made it pretty clear that they would not consider the city's recommendations for changes to lessen the impacts and to improve drainage, to provide larger setbacks, to provide better open space. The planning board had public hearings and voted unanimously against this. However, I am going to vote for this after much consideration and learning a great deal from the attorney and from the agreement drawn up by Grace Stiers, who is really an excellent land use attorney. We've turned to him before and had good results. I'm voting because I think this gives the city a chance to make the best of this situation. A no vote would not be a vote in favor of the best for the city. So I think a yes vote is a vote for the city, for us to get the most that we can. We're going to have an expanded tax base. We're not going to have to pay to put in their sewer and water. The timing is to our benefit, lessens the impact. So I'm planning to vote yes for this. It is not a vote for Osprey Landing, it's a vote for the city.
Thank you, Alderman Davis. As I agree with you in that this is beneficial to the city, and we just can't go back in time. We need to move forward. So is there any further discussion on this? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda, property clearing review, 009 Turtlewood Drive. This concerns a violation of the tree ordinance, and we'll turn it over to City Manager, Mr. Hargrove, to lead our discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At last month's Alderman meeting, Mr. and Mrs. Crumpler came to appeal the fine for their tree clearing violation. Board of Aldermen asked staff to go back and revisit this and come back with more detailed information to allow you to make a decision. In your board packet on page 51, you'll read a little background on that, and I'm going to read that to you. The Crumplers proceeded with clearing their property before any zoning or building permits were issued. The project was held up at the county for 911 addressing for 2 weeks and held up for a week with the city because of our permitting software was down. The property owner did not apply for any permits until city staff observed the lot clearing. The same day that city staff reported the lot clearing, the contractor submitted the application but still did not provide any site plans for which trees had been removed. Based on the GIS images that are available and a site visit by Development Services Director Thomas Lloyd, it was determined that an estimated 4,000 square feet were disturbed without a permit. The property owner was informed of the $4,000 fine and the requirement to plant 2 replacement canopy trees on the site. The Crumplers paid the fine. Staff enforced the ordinance standards as written. At the August board meeting, as I said before, the Crumplers asked the board for relief from the fine. The board directed staff to review the case and make a recommendation to the board. At this point, you have 3 actions that you can make. You can leave the fine as is, you can release the fine, basically eliminating it, or you can reduce the fine. That is the case as it stands before you now. So I'm going to let y'all discuss it and determine how you would like to direct staff to proceed.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Hargrove? Okay, then I'll...
I have a question.
yeah, absolutely.
If this is the way it went down, well, really, and again, I'm against the fine, but why wasn't it cashed? Why wasn't the check cashed?
When they wrote the check,
Why wasn't the check cashed, I believe was the...
Has it been cashed?
Yeah, has it been cashed?
the check has not been cashed because at the time that they wrote the check, they said that they were going to appeal the fine, and so we held the check depending on the outcome today or this evening.
There was a problem in our software that slowed them down from getting a permit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Eisenberg, if we hinder someone and create an economic hardship by some of our software not working and delaying them, are we liable? Do we need to go into closed session for something like that?
I'm reading here, what was the delay, a day or something? By the city. I'm looking at the manager's timetable.
Thomas.
I mean, you've got the city always has a reasonable period of time to process any application for a permit. Now, I don't know, what your practice is as far as what you consider a reasonable period in a normal situation.
Yeah. Looks like it was like a 2-month process from the time they started to the, where they showed up.
I mean, the delay was a couple of weeks because it was a problem with our GIS software and the permitting software, which has since been resolved, but yes. Mm-hmm.
We have a motion by Alderman Spencer that we release the fine.
That's right.
And we ask them to plant an extra canopy tree.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, without a second, then I will entertain another motion.
I have another question, I think. And Thomas, you may need to help answer this. Are the crumplers here? They're not here. Mr. City Manager, maybe you can answer this. I don't know. So what? All right. So they were delayed, Thomas. They were delayed, essentially, according to what the city manager's report says in here. They're delayed by 3 weeks, 2 by the county and 1 by us. So, I mean, I'm trying to think how to phrase this without. Did they just get tired of waiting? Were they up against some sort of deadline for getting the lot cleared and the 3 weeks was becoming an issue, or what?
That's what we were told after the fact.
Told that it was an issue? And what was the issue?
That they had a deadline for getting the lot cleared, or it wouldn't have been done for, a couple months by that person, is what they said.
Okay. I guess it's a fair assumption to make that there's more than one person or company that can perform lot clearing. Can't answer that. That was, I guess, a rhetorical question.
Tom, did I read somewhere that they were told not to cut any trees until the permit was obtained?
That's correct, until a building permit with the minor site plan is approved.
Right.
They acknowledged getting that message from their contractor? Do you know?
We definitely talked to the contractor about it, but, I don't want to get into hearsay, so.
But the contractor did his contract include the clearing? Or, I guess it sounds like
no,
the
he's a
property
general
owner
contractor.
Contracted separately with someone to do the lot clearing.
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
Thomas, when you go out there and you look in that neighborhood, is there any old growth anywhere in that neighborhood? Is there? Yes, in that area, that was in the 80s and 90s. That was used by Pfizer to spread a byproduct of what they were creating at the plant. There were no trees out there in the 80s and 90s. I know for a fact that there were no trees. So anything that was there was 20-year, 30-year growth at the most. And from what I understood, most of it was dead from a hurricane. And so that's why I'm just struggling with the amount. If it was downtown historic Southport, 100-year-old oak trees, I could feel a little bit more. But knowing the area, it's a tough find for that location. Help though.
I'm gonna speak. Can I speak? Okay. No, not right now. We're in discussion. It's clear that a violation was committed. In the UDO, Article 2.6B2, regarding zoning permit process, clearly states it shall be unlawful to commence site preparation or excavation for the construction of any building, including site disturbance and tree removal, until a zoning permit is issued. And under the tree protection and landscape preservation section, which is Article 3.18B, states part of the purpose for the tree protection is to prevent the indiscriminate removal of trees. There must be consequences for clearing a lot and removing trees without a permit, and we have to treat everyone the same. The UDO was updated last year in part to provide safeguards and consequences because the originally adopted tree ordinance language fell short for vacant lots. And what happened give you an example, under the old language, when a vacant lot was cleared and trees were removed without a permit, which was a required, but the fine was only $100. And so not much of a consequence. One developer cleared 3 lots right after Hurricane Florence and was fined $300. So I appreciate the frustration of building new construction. Everybody knows there's frustrations, but I want to thank staff. However, building a new house, however, work cannot be done without the required approvals and permits. And I want to thank staff for the detailed summary of the events, and I support staff's decision to enforce the ordinance. Do we need a motion to say we're not going to do something, or can we just?
We need a motion to either release it, to change it, or to uphold the fine.
I make a motion to uphold the fine.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Mosteller, and then a second, and it was a tie by Alderman Lombardi and Alderman Davis. Any further discussion?
Yeah, before we vote on it, can I offer a substitute motion to, in light of the fact that we did cause a delay, the county and the city did, to reduce the fine from $4,000 to $3,000?
We're in discussion on the first motion.
Yes, we're in discussion. That's true, on the first motion. So y'all can negotiate
do you
if
want
you
me
want
to
change
say
your
that?
motion or not.
I don't really want to change my motion, John, and my reasoning behind not changing the motion is issues come up from time to time. And no matter what, you can't start building, which is what they did by clearing the lot. They started the building process without a permit, no matter what. And so I don't know how you quantify breaking the city law, which is the ordinance. I don't think we can quantify it, and that would be why I would choose not to modify the motion I made.
And I would like to say this, as liaison to the Forestry Committee, we have an excellent tree protection ordinance. And as part of our UDO, we have made sure that there's no clear cutting. Like, you know, it's a knife to my heart every time I drive down the road and I look at that clear cut lot across from Sacred Heart. I imagine all of you have seen that, and just, that was a nice acreage of a lot of canopy trees, and they're gone. For the last few weeks, all we've seen is burning piles of tree trunks, and now they've scraped it clean. Okay, why didn't we stop that? Well, it's not in our control. That piece of property is in the county's jurisdiction, not ours. It's not in city limits, and it's not even in our extraterritorial area. We had no say in this. But we do have a say in the city. Within our city limits, we can say no to that kind of just whole-scale clear cutting. And while this was, what, 2 or 3 trees, was it? And we understand his desire to cut those, but before he did, by getting the permit, that allowed Thomas and probably the chairman of the Forestry Committee to go out, look at those trees, make any suggestions about how to save those, maybe how to slightly reposition things to save them. It would have gone to the planning board, and instead he just jumped the gun and cut the trees. And one of the things that makes our tree protection ordinance strong is the teeth. And the teeth are this kind of a fine. And so we've spelled out what those fines are. And I believe that the owner, when he spoke to us, was it last meeting or, yeah, it was the last meeting. The first thing he said when he started his remarks were, "I'm asking for forgiveness, not permission." He knew what he was doing and he knew what the fines were going to be, but he did it. And so what are we going to say to other people who do this, other property owners? And, you know, I don't care what it was 30 years ago. There were 30-year-old trees, nice big trees in there, and they're gone now.
It's interesting that someone can buy property but not own it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
It's interesting that someone can buy property but yet not own it.
What? I don't understand what that means.
That means that when he bought the property, he might have got the dirt, but he didn't own the trees. We do, because he's having to pay for it twice.
That is not correct.
We step on property rights every day. Y'all vote.
So would you have us not have any building permits or anything like that? Because, you know, yes, you own a piece of property, but the city has a say in what you put there. Would you want to do away with zoning entirely? I mean, to say that he doesn't own the trees is, no, that does not make sense to me.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion, show of hands. 3.
1,000 fine to stand.
Correct, for the fine to stay. Okay. I see 5 hands and 1 opposed. Alderman Spencer. Okay, thank you. Motion carried. Thank you. Good discussion. Thank you very much. Item 6, this will be the System Development Fee Adjustment for Southport Marina. This is with respect to the dry storage unit that's to be built there and a change in the classification of this facility. So I'll call on Mr. Hargrove and then any questions, comments from the board. So Mr. Hargrove.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. As we all know, Southport Marina is building a new dry stack storage unit, and it's subject to system development fees. The initial system development fee of $63,720 was on a calculation based on the T2 table that classified a marina dry stack as a wet slip facility. Before the fee was levied, McGill and Associates had confirmed that this was the appropriate classification for a facility of this type. Once the system development fee was levied, Southport Marina appealed the amount through their attorney that the fee was excessive, primarily because the dry stack storage marina was misclassified as a wet slip marina. To determine the merit of the appeal, Development Services Director Thomas Lloyd, City Attorney Mike Eisenberg, and myself met via Zoom with the engineering team that prepared Southport's system development fee schedule. During the meeting, it was determined that a marina dry stack storage unit was not a good fit for any of the categories in the T2 table. After discussion with McGill and Associates, city staff, it was determined that the best fit for a marina dry stack storage unit would be the transportation hub classification. The transportation hub fee is based on the number of parking spots and occupants per vehicle. The number of vehicle occupants can be based between 1 and 4. After discussion, it was determined that 2 occupants per vehicle would be equitable. Based on the new calculation, the new system development fee will be $15,930. Staff is requesting and actually making a recommendation that the city reconsider the system development fee for Southport Marina and entertain a motion to reduce this fee based on the new information. The new system development fee would be $15,930. I'll entertain any questions now.
I have one. How does their sprinkler system and the associated water capacity that we have to provide to them in order to operate that sprinkler system enter into this calculation?
It doesn't enter into it at all. That's one of the things that we studied was the charging of the sprinkler system was going to be approximately 1,000 gallons a year. We also talked about how the state goes about levying that system storage fee for water storage, and we just couldn't determine any way to assess the marina for those. I mean, we don't assess each individual home for that water allocation. I had our water department contact the state, and it just couldn't be calculated. They said that that's not how they went about doing it. It was specifically for the structure itself.
Yeah, well, the structure itself has to be sprinklered. It seems like that's a gaping hole in this entire modeling and calculation, because if that sprinkler system goes off, you're going to have thousands of gallons per minute coming out of those sprinkler heads that we have to have the capacity, the storage capacity and the pressure to supply. It just seems inconceivable to me that that is not part of the calculation. I get that it isn't, but I think we need, if you'd please make a note that we need to add to it next year when we start talking about our priorities with General Assembly, that we start raising the issue of why sprinkler systems are not included in the development fee schedule. I mean, it makes no sense.
Is it possible for us to table this and give you an opportunity to talk with the marina further and perhaps negotiate so that there's a higher fee?
Well, I think what we're looking at for negotiation, if we head down that road, is a lawsuit.
We spent about an hour with 3 engineers going over this. I think it was 3, Gordon, myself, and Tom. And they spent a lot of time together with us, and the 3 of them agreed that what we were charging them based upon how we had figured it before was not correct. And they were pretty adamant, or not adamant, but they were all in agreement that this was the most fair way and the closest T2 classification to give it. And they recommended, they all 3 recommended it and felt like that the first way as a wet slip facility was not the correct way. The only thing we were really discussing with them after a while was whether to allocate 1, 2, or 4, wasn't it, Gordon? People to the vehicles.
That is correct. And I would like to also emphasize during our conversation with McGill and Associates is the problem is these new system development fees are only about 3 years old. We reached out through the Cape Fear Council of Governments to see if there had been any other dry stack units built in the state. Unfortunately, we're going to be the barometer by what other people do. The dry stack storage unit really doesn't fit anywhere in the T2 table. It's like trying to pound a square into a round hole. And John, back to your point, I looked at it every way I could to make sure that we weren't missing anything, and there was just really no way that I could justify the additional cost for the water storage. Believe me, I looked at that. I also looked at the charging for it. We went so far as to reach out to the state, the people that provide that water allocation, and they just said that's not really how it worked. When that sprinkler goes off, it's not really any different than if home and put a fire out at your house. We don't charge you for that water. So quite frankly, this is we're kind of setting we're blazing a path forward here. Is it the right one? I think it is. At the point that we are right now, I think we can certainly continue to study it. But however, I do think that as we move forward, if we do not make this adjustment, that this is probably going to move toward litigation.
I'd like to make the motion. I'd like to make the motion that we accept this new system development fee of $15,930 for the cost of Southport Marina's dry stack building. It is the formula has been calculated by the engineering firm that was certified to provide us with a development fee formula. It has been consulted with multiple engineers and our own attorney, and it is an appropriate charge for the building.
Okay, there's a motion by Alderman Sharkey to go with the McGill recommendation of $15,930 for the system development fee. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Allen. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. 5-1, motion carried. Thank you. Item 8, the Forestry Committee appointment. Alderman Davis.
We had, the Forestry Committee had one opening to replace Harry Singley, who had been a very active member of the committee for a long time, but he moved out of Southport, even out of the ETJ, and so we had the one opening. We had 2 applicants, and the Forestry Committee chairman, the city planner, who is the city liaison to the Forestry Committee, and I interviewed the 2 candidates, and we would like to recommend Gerald Donaldson, who lives at 5990 Dutchman Creek Road, to fill that position. The other candidate was impressive, but did not have the depth of knowledge about the workings of the committee. Mr. Donaldson had demonstrated that he fully understood and knew all of the details of the forestry, of the tree protection ordinance, and he is a certified NC State master gardener, and he has a deep background in public policy. And so we want to recommend Mr. Donaldson. We also want to recommend Peg Ingalls for a reappointment. She's been a long-time member of the committee, valuable contributions, and she wants to continue, but her term had expired, so she wants to be renewed. So I move that we appoint Gerald Donaldson to the vacant position and Peg Ingalls to a new term. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion for Professor Donaldson for appointment, and for Ms. Ingalls for reappointment, and there's a second by Alderman Lombardi. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Thank you for your willingness to volunteer and your spirit of volunteerism. Thank you so much, and thank you all to all our volunteers. Item 9 on the agenda. This is a resolution in support of exploring a merger of the city and county utilities. In 2019, the city of Southport was planning to build a wastewater treatment facility. There was opposition to this, and I was also opposed to this and favored regionalization. I did so because not only my background in public health and in medicine, because we regionalize certain services in medicine because there's economies of scale, there's efficiency, and it's more successful because the more you do. So I felt like, and not only that, but also where they were going to place this wastewater treatment plant, they were going to put it in a neighborhood off of Bethel Church Road. So for many reasons, after a long discussion with engineers, city staff, officials with Brunswick County, we have moved in that direction, and it is the best way forward to go with regionalization. So this resolution is to continue that process and includes the evaluating the potential possibility for this by obtaining a grant to ascertain if it's feasible to merge the city and county water and wastewater systems. So I will turn it over to Mr. Hargrove for further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You didn't really leave me much to say.
Yes, I did.
other than this resolution is really to help us in our grant application with the state to explore the benefits that would come from merging, or it's not really a merger, it's more really of a takeover of letting the county take over our water and sewer. It is the trend in today's environment for much smaller systems like ourselves to get our system in good enough shape and then sell our system. In this case, I don't know that there will be a sale, but get our system in good enough shape that the county will take it over. There are a lot of positives to that. It's the economies of scale that come along with that, but also if the system is in good enough shape, they'll also assume the debt that we have with that system. They've been known to do that as well. So really all I need is you to consider a resolution tonight that will allow us to go ahead and move forward in the grant application to study the feasibility of this kind of move.
Gordon, do we have a sense of how likely we are to get the grant?
It's my understanding that as long as we can get everything in by the deadline, it's a slam dunk. The state really encourages this kind of movement.
But yes, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the resolution in support of seeking grant funding for merger regionalization feasibility grant.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Allen, a second by Alderman Lombardi. Any further discussion on the merger regionalization feasibility grant? Yes, please, Mr. Hargrove.
So not only does this resolution allow us to apply for this grant, but it also allows us to qualify for some of the larger funding mechanisms. I think there's $1.2 billion that are going to be available for municipalities for infrastructure improvements as we move forward. So really what we're doing is setting the table. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that.
Before we vote, let me just point out that that's the type of forward-looking vision that we're all elected to see carried out, and we appreciate staff supporting us and our city in doing that.
Excellent comment. Any further discussion? And City Manager, you certainly had a lot more to add. I was just giving some background, so I appreciate your discussion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Now we'll go to our committee reports, and I'll start with Alderman Allen, Alderman Spencer, Alderman Sharkey,
Rate Committee is going to be meeting next week. It's been advertised 15th, 14th. Okay. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but yes. So it's an open meeting. We'll be meeting to discuss rates according to different things like the community building use, water, sewer, things like that.
Alderman Davis.
Forestry Committee meets Tuesday at 5 o'clock at Indian Trail. We really love for public to come and see what we're doing, which is a lot. And so we welcome you all to come.
Alderman Lombardi.
Yep, beautification had their monthly cleanup this past Saturday. And we did our normal staining and pulling weeds and planting. And we also installed 4 anchors in concrete to hold that boat in place. And to further guarantee that it don't float away, we're going to be cutting a hole in the bottom of the boat so that the water goes in and out with the tide and stop it from floating away. So that's to come soon. That's about it.
You anchors away now on that boat, so bring it on, right, sir? Alderman Mosteller.
Thank you. Streetlight Committee, during the public discussion about streetlights at the last meeting, it was decided that we would plan a streetlight policy workshop for a more in-depth look at the proposed policy. And so then some may know that Brunswick Electric had previously set up a demonstration in the Hammocks neighborhood prior to the last meeting. However, Brunswick Electric had relocated the P30 3,000 Kelvin light that was in that lineup to a different neighborhood, so that that demo is no longer exists. We can all agree that street lighting is a design element that is very important to the look and feel of a community. And in order to make the future streetlight workshop more productive, prior to the workshop, the city will create a new demonstration that includes 3 light fixtures, all P20 model fixtures in different color temperatures, 4,000, 3,000, and 2,700 Kelvin. And the demonstration will be an opportunity for citizens to evaluate the same fixtures with varying color temperatures for input to help finalize the policy selection. The city had to order 2 of the lights as they were not stocked by Brunswick Electric, and the delivery is going to be about 6 weeks. So as soon as the demo lights are installed, the city will put notification on the website to let us know the location. Once the demonstration is active, we can then schedule the workshop. In the meantime, citizens may reach out to Alderman Davis, Alderman Sharkey, or myself with any questions or concerns about streetlight policy. Thank you. And then Parks and Recs Committee, on the heels of a very successful crab derby, I might add, the Parks and Recs Department, along with co-sponsors, the Southport Lions Club, are planning Captain Charlie's Kids Fishing Tournament. The tournament is scheduled for October 2nd at the City Pier at Waterfront Park on Bay Street. Registration will begin at 8:30 for 16 and under age brackets. Lines in the water at 9 o'clock a.m., lines out of the water at noon, and there will be prizes and lunch. This is a 30-year Southport tradition and going to be fun for everyone. Also, please mark your calendars for the following Friday, October 8th, for the next film in the Waterfront movie series on the Garrison Lawn. Starting at dusk on the 8th, we will be able to sit back and relax and enjoy a classic, the Addams Family movie. So, in the best venue in the world, Southport's Waterfront. So, be sure to mark your calendars. That's it.
Thank you. Excellent reports. Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have quite a few things to discuss tonight. I don't know if most folks are aware, but Southport's finance department has been labeled in the past few years as a distressed unit by the local government commission. Recently, we've been taken off that list. Finance Director Melanie Trexler is not here tonight, so I am going to introduce her and her staff at our next Alderman meeting. I just want to say this has been a tremendous amount of work for her and her staff to come off this list. This is truly an impressive feat. If you don't come off that list, what ends up happening is the North Carolina Treasury's Department takes over your community finances. I don't think any of us want that to happen. But through her due diligence in putting the right people in the right place so that they could be successful, we have been taken off that list by the LGC. I'm beyond excited about that designation. Secondly, Howe Street, I think we are all very, very pleased that it's completed. We have one more step involved in it. We have to wait 6 months, and we'll be repaving that road from Bay Street all the way up to Garden Terrace. I would like to let everyone know that we're already in discussion about how that project's going to take place, and it's been emphasized that it needs to take place at night, so as it has the least amount of impact on our Howe Street business owners in that particular corridor. Bay Street, the Riprap Project along Bay Street right behind us is over. You can see that it's a fortress, so hopefully it'll work against all storms that we have in the future. However, the road looks terrible. That's going to be an issue that we're going to identify. We've already identified the issue. Right now we need to identify the funding mechanism, how we're going to pay for it. Staff and board are diligently finding a path forward to make that happen, as well as to repair the side roads that were damaged during the construction. We have a new project starting next week. It is the Riprap Project along Brunswick Street down by your house, by Alderman Davis's house, and some of the cave-in that we have over there, we're going to be putting riprap in there. Unfortunately, that's going to require road closure along a certain part of Brunswick Street. We're going to have to reverse traffic direction on Brunswick Alley for approximately a week. That message will be targeted and go out through Southport Connected tomorrow. We are also putting that on our website, and we'll also be physically knocking on doors tomorrow to inform the residents of what they can expect. That's about all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Make a comment. The riprap on Brunswick Street, it's not for my benefit. There's been a lot of erosion to the point where it is dangerous for people to walk along that area, and certainly to park along that area. You're in danger of sliding right into the water and the mud. So thank you very much. But
just as you can identify that area, it's going to be the property right there along the marsh, primarily in front of Ben Wilson's house. But it's being done for the benefit of the city, not for Mr. Wilson. We're trying to prevent that road from slipping into the marsh.
so wait, you're not doing it in front of my house?
Not tomorrow.
Okay.
So thank you. That was an excellent report. Mayor's remarks, I'll be brief. I put an update in the paper, so you can certainly read that, but I would like to make a few comments. Just as Mr. Hargrove has said, Howe Street is open. That is a great accomplishment. That is moving forward. So, and we learn from every project. We learn from every block of every street that we work on, or every project that we do. Paving, as he said, will start in 6 months. So that gives everyone time to enjoy it, and then working at night will be very beneficial. I asked that we have a town hall workshop for traffic safety, pedestrian, that type thing, and it was very successful. We heard from city staff, from citizens, the board. So just such a great event. We're going to do it again on another issue soon. But anyway, we're obtaining more data. We're going to place speed calming devices, and we're going to continue implementing what our citizens have asked for and what city staff has recommended. In terms of our yacht basin, the city manager has requested that we have a town hall board workshop on this, and this is something that Mayor Pro Tem Mostel has worked very hard on. So we will set a date in terms of traffic pattern, pedestrian walkway, and safety down in the yacht basin. So he'll send out some potential dates, and we'll get that set up. City Dock, the Crab Derby, just a wonderful event. I've been in Southport a long time, and I saw friends whose children now have children, so I can understand my gray hair. But it was a wonderful event to see all those young children there. There was a ARP seminar today. This is the American Rescue Plan. This was put on by the League of Municipalities, and it was attended by the mayors of the surrounding communities. They told us about guidelines, how the funds are to be used, and Southport has received its first installation, $600,000 for infrastructure, and that's one of the main purposes for this money. There is $1.5 billion, as the city manager said, for municipalities, so hopefully Southport will get more of this money to help us with our funding and our infrastructure. So it was a very informative seminar. COVID-19, this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and those adults that are not vaccinated are putting children at risk. In the last week, 251,781 cases in children who could not be vaccinated because of their age. As we know, the Delta is more transmissible. We now have the Mu variant coming. I want to mention a term you may or may not know is the RO factor, the R naught factor, and it's a reproductive factor. It's the number of people that one person with a virus can infect. And one of the reasons I brought it up is because the original strain, one COVID-19 case can infect 3 people. With the Delta, they say it was between 5 and 9. There they say it's about 8.5. One Delta variant case can infect 8 people. And one of the reasons I also brought it up, because I know we all read the pilot, and if you see the way it was, it's the measles patients in quarantine camp. It's the post-hospital in the background at Fort Caswell. And so for measles, the R naught factor is 12 to 18. So one case of measles can infect up to 18 people. So you see why measles is so infectious, and you see why the vaccine was so important and has worked so well. So please take your shot, wear a mask. I'm telling you, the patients that I'm seeing in the ER at the hospital, they're unvaccinated, they're younger, they're short of breath, they have pneumonia, and they're ending up on a ventilator. So the places where cases are higher, vaccination rates are low. I'm just going to mention the Sons of Southport. I'm going to let Alderman Spencer talk about them, but we lost 2 great men in the last few weeks. The last item is the 20th anniversary of September 11th. There'll be a ceremony at the Southport Fire Station at 9 a.m. on Saturday. There'll be 343 booths to commemorate the loss of these firefighters at the World Trade Center. They were doing their job as they were trained to do in an untenable situation. So take time out of your day to remember the 2,977 innocent people who were killed on that day. Staff reports, you have them in your packet. Now I will turn to the board for their board comments. Alderman Allen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I do have a few items that I wanted to bring up tonight. Recently, I've read and heard comments and rumors regarding several key projects and issues facing our community. I'd like to address some of the information that's being put out there and provide some context and clarification for it. First, an ad in the state port pilot in yesterday's paper urged citizens to attend tonight's meeting because, quote, we are led to believe, end quote, that this board may vote on the streetlight policy tonight. To me, in this context, the phrase, we are led to believe, is a loaded phrase deliberately used to imply nefarious intent by this board. That is not correct. In fact, the minutes of last month's meeting show that I specifically asked that the minutes of last month's meeting specifically show that I asked that a board workshop, which by law is open to the public, be scheduled to discuss the issue prior to taking any further action on it. In addition, the agenda for this month's meeting was posted on the city's website last week, and of course there's nothing on the agenda about that issue. And as we've all noticed, no action was taken by this board on the issue. However, we do in fact welcome your input on this and all issues, and hope you'll continue to follow this and provide input to us so we can make the best decision possible. Second, in another ad I read in the pilot, the opinion that the city, quote, needs a vision beyond the universal development ordinance, end quote. And just so everybody knows, it's actually the unified development ordinance. That statement is also not correct because the UDO isn't, nor does it purport to be, a vision plan. We do in fact have a vision plan, and it's the CAMA Core Land Use Plan. CAMA stands for Coastal Area Management Act, just so everybody knows. I know we're throwing out a lot of acronyms, as we tend to do in this business. Despite the name, it's far more than a land use plan. It lays out our community's guiding principles and priorities. It is further amplified and put into action through the board's annual retreat, at which the board uses the vision set forth in the CAMA Core Land Use Plan, along with community input and staff reports, to set goals and then fund those goals through the annual budget. And the third item I'd like to discuss was also in the newspaper yesterday, and it was an editorial, the lead editorial concerning Howe Street. And before I get into the specifics of that, I really want to first say how unbelievably inappropriate it is for the editorial writer to compare the tragic loss of life this country suffered on September 11th, 2001 with a sewer line replacement project. I cannot express in strong enough terms my absolute disgust at this, and I hope we will see a retraction and a policy for this stunning lack of judgment. The editorial also suggested that the city should conduct an exit review of the sewer replacement project in order to detail the lessons learned from it. Let me assure the citizens of Southport that such a review has been occurring during the entire project, continues to occur now, and will continue to occur in the future. We have gained valuable information that we will use to drive change in our project management processes moving forward. And while everyone agrees on the difficulties that we all endured during the project, I hope everyone also understands the unforeseeable issues inherent in digging up a 100-year-old sewer line beneath the city's main street during our nation's worst public health crisis in 3 generations. I also want to point out the project was originally scheduled to start last fall so that it could be completed prior to the summer season, but we were asked to delay it by our merchants in order to not interfere with the Christmas season. That's entirely appropriate, but my point is there's no good time to perform such a project. It's going to be an inconvenience regardless of when it's done, by whom it's done, and how it's done. There's simply no way around that, and there's simply no way around the fact that it was absolutely necessary. I know we're all glad it's essentially done, except for the paving, as it was alluded to. I've heard complaints that the, quote, final paving of Howe Street is terrible, and as we've heard tonight, I want to assure everyone that what's there is not the final paving. We are being required to mill and repave the entire project area, and our mayor is working hard to secure the funding for that from the state in the upcoming budget, assuming they get a budget. Also, please be aware we are just beginning to work on the replacement of water lines, which will not occur for several years. It seems like some people like to throw around this concept as a scare tactic of, oh, the water lines, like it's going to happen in the next 2 days. It's a long-range project that we don't even have funding for. Finally, I'd like to point out to the pilot that it is in fact not, quote, crazy to have water and sewer lines under our streets. In fact, that's a standard procedure virtually everywhere, and it makes total sense. Thank you.
Mayor, I've got to change up my game. You know what I'm doing before I do it. Let's see, how do we start? I enjoyed attending Electricity's conference about 3 weeks ago, and they brought up issues like Alderman Lombardi discussing charging stations and the future of our electric grid, and try to be polite and say we have given away our water and our sewer. Our electric grid is the ace in the hole, and that we need to continue working on putting things underground, but we also need to have a vision of what's coming, of charging stations in the home, rather than maybe stopping by our local gas station, or where we're going to put these charging stations. And then today the DOT brings me Cassie, which again, my father, growing up here, would have never dreamed that there would have been a car riding around Southport with no driver. But I'm interested in that. And I've also learned this word that's playing into, I'll say, my hand, because I am about jobs and not really chasing the tourist dollar. I really believe we need a foundation of economic development and not live on tourism, but that's where we are. But this new idea of a Zoom town, and it's a really good, it's a great thing that these people are moving from these urban areas to a place that they really want to raise their children and they really want to live and enjoy while they earn a living. So that might be the actual crack in the hole that we need to make ourselves available with high-speed internet, fiber, whatever it may be, so that these people can come here and actually raise a family and afford to live. So I'm excited about the future. I'm not afraid of it. I'm excited about it. So I know that COVID was on everybody's mind. I'm sorry y'all didn't get to attend, but it was definitely eye-opening. Appreciate Mr. Miller being here. I was going to ask him to get me 3 or 4 Cassies in the legislature, but I'll talk to him later. When we talk about roads and we talk about Osprey Landing and all this, that I don't mean to be insulting, but we need to think bigger than that. As we look at Indigo coming, Osprey Landing, all the development, we need a major road. We don't need to ask for a crumb. We need a stake. Okay, so we need another way in and out of town that will cross what I call CP&L Canal. It's Duke Canal, whatever. It's the bridge you cross. There are 2 of them. We need a third way out of town. If you look at how well Rob Gandy's done for us, we just need that outlet. So I would say when we're talking to DOT, we need to think about another route that we can have, a major route to help the traffic. So, let's see that. 9/11, what a big thing. And never forgetting, I remember where I was in Raleigh. My neighbor came over, he knocked on the door, he couldn't believe it. We sat there standing at each other, looking at each other like it was the end of the earth. But somehow we came together, and it brought us together. Bounces to a meeting I had with a 90-year-old citizen. She's my advisor. I'm lucky to still have her. And we were discussing what was wrong, why things weren't the same. And with her experience of 90 years, she said, it just seems like we just don't care about each other anymore. And I told her I might have to steal that for my campaign coming up, because we care about all kinds of things, the waterfront, the roads, and this and that and the other. But when it comes to interacting with our neighbors, maybe we've got an extra car that needs to be put away that we should put away, and respect each other. We shouldn't have to have a UDO to tell us what we should and should not do for our neighbors. We might need to communicate with each other better. So I appreciate her advice. And I'm strong. I can do this. I'll keep it. I won't cry. I won't crack. But you and I did get to participate. You, myself, and the police chief were honored to be pallbearers for Mr. Sun Carrier, 97 years old, war veteran. Really, really, really influential on me in the last month. I heard stories about you standing by his side until 10 minutes before his death. It's not the first time I've heard a story about that about you. I've watched you all as long as you've been here, be by people's side. And I know that the people of Southport, this family, the Sun Carrier family, appreciated what you did, and I know you do it every day, and I want to give you your due, just due. So then my mind went on the election. This is an honored position. This is not a dirty place. We should not run dirty. This is an honored position. Words like integrity, civility, and my favorite, statesmanship. We don't have statesmen or women anymore, and we need to stand up and act like statesmen when we're running for these offices, and when we sit here. And I apologize if I've ever joked too much, but it's an important seat. And I appreciate you all, and that'll be it, I think. Yes, sir.
Not only honorary programs and things like that, but we were asked by President Obama to make it a National Day of Service. And that's what I really urge people to do this Saturday if possible. The Military Appreciation Day is on September 11th, the day that they take service people fishing. And they are looking for help if you have time. But there's also all these other things that we can be doing to help neighbors, whether it's Adopt a Street campaigns, litter cleanups, helping food banks, coming together in different ways, like Alderman Spencer says, think about our neighbors. Just don't show up to a ceremony and say, oh, we're sad that people died. That day affected me very greatly. As a firefighter at the time, to watch the news and see people leaping to their death from the World Trade Center buildings, and looking at the building and knowing that fire load was going to cause that building collapse. And I could do nothing to warn the firefighters that were entering the building, because I was in Virginia and they were in New York City. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. It's a very sad day for me. And I do not make light of any of the remembrances, but it's just a very sad day. So let's do something positive, because we are alive. We can do something to make things better for other people. We can't do anything for those individuals that died. We can only do for who's alive today. And I ask you to think about that more so than just attending a ceremony. The other thing I ask is that as we look at our different projects and things that we're trying to accomplish, streetlights or pedestrian walkways and other projects around town, tonight was another example of how staff comes through with flying colors on what we set forth as policy. Policy is we want to provide safe, secure, reliable wastewater and sewer, right? And we agree that that's our policy. Staff is looking for ways on how to accomplish that. Whether we get a grant to do a regionalization project, we get a grant to make improvements in our water lines, the financial department has come together to accomplish our policy of not being on the distressed cities list. Staff comes through so often for us. And we, policymakers, just need to be careful that we don't get in their way. And we shouldn't get into the nuts and bolts that sometimes I think we try to. And we want to and have our personal touch on it, but they're the technical experts on the fields that they've been hired to be in, and they are going to take care of doing those nuts and bolts things for us to have good policy. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Alderman Davis.
Okay, thank you. When I came in tonight, Tourism Director Randy Jones asked me if I'd been defrocked. I don't normally wear a t-shirt to the Alderman meetings. I'm usually in my clergy clothes. Most of you, I think, know that I'm an ordained Episcopal priest. But I'm wearing this tonight to draw attention to the needs of the library. The Friends of the Library raise the money for the books. Now, our Harper Library, which is truly a treasure in this town, it's a county library, part of the county system, but the county is really stingy with its funding. Of all the libraries in North Carolina, you know, there are 100 counties in North Carolina. So there are many, many libraries in North Carolina. Brunswick County rates almost at the bottom in funding for our library system. We are woefully underfunded for staffing. You know, people complain about the fact that the library closes and is not open at night. It's not open on Saturdays or Sundays. Why? We can't staff it. And where do the books come from? The Friends of the Library. And if you join the Friends of the Library, which you could do for just a few dollars, you get this nifty shirt. I also don't usually wear shirts backwards, but I wanted to so you could see what it says. You can't buy happiness, but you can buy books. And that's sort of the same thing. Now, where do you buy books? Every penny goes to the library. Let me be sure I got this right. The bookstore, which is in the rear of Southport Realty, is open. This is used books and all kinds of other things, CDs. Great place to buy gifts, by the way. It's open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 to 11:30 in the mornings, and it is open on the last Saturday of every month from 1:30 to 4. They take donations. Don't let all your old books grade dust in your house. Bring them over and donate. And they take donations from 9 to 10 on Tuesdays. And concerning 9/11, my seminary, Episcopal General Seminary in New York, which is between, it's on 9th Avenue between 19th and 20th in the Chelsea neighborhood. Well, as soon as 9/11 horrors occurred, the faculty and the seminarians, the students, dropped everything and rushed down there. And for weeks and weeks, they were just there to provide prayers, chaplaincy, support, and talk to and try to comfort people. And they said that the main thing they heard from people is, where is God in all this? I don't even believe in God anymore. Well, the answer to that was, you know, no, God wasn't in the attacks, but God was in the responses and what the first responders did and in what all the volunteers did and kept doing. And so God was in the giving and the unity. And to that I say amen. Okay, thank you.
Alderman Lombardi.
I don't know what more I could say, but thank all the public for being here and your comments. And John, thank you for bringing up all these misinterpretations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardi. Alderman Mosteller.
There's nothing left to say except thank you to everybody and be safe.
Thank you. This was an excellent meeting. We're doing the work of the people. We've heard the voice of the people. Our board is unified. Our town is unified. We are a transparent board. The information compared to previous boards that we're able to put out in terms of our public comment has no limit. Our information is online. The meetings are streamed. Our phone numbers are online. Our citizens can call us. We are available. So I think we are moving in the right direction. It takes time, and we are working towards that. I appreciate the comments in particular. Alderman Allen, thank you for stepping up like that in those comments. Mr. Hargrove, thank you. City Attorney, thank you for getting us through. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Second.